Today on Notsam Wrestling, we've got new tag team champions. The Usos have reunited. Randy Orton calls out Triple H, and Cody Rhodes is a messy king. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. You'll have to bear with me slightly. I think it's getting much better, but I am just getting over a slight inflammation of these vocal cords. I keep talking. I keep using them. And they're saying, please give us a rest. Please, Sam. Don't exercise us more. And I go, vocal cords. There's too much to talk about. We can't wait another moment. In case you didn't see, the Usos are back together. The Usos have reunited. I was fortunate enough to be in attendance at the Barclays Center on Friday for SmackDown. And I'm going to say this first and foremost. There will be no spoilers on this podcast. I think the fact that I don't know if it was anything was spoiled for you guys, but the fact that they did 2 SmackDown tapings at the Barclays on Friday, and some of the things that happened on the show that airs next Friday was, unavoidable. All over my Instagram feed, all over my Facebook feed, videos of it popping up on YouTube. Disgusting, despicable. I hope all you spoilers are proud of yourselves, and I hope you don't wonder why you have no friends. It's because you do this to people. Now, what we will talk about is what we all saw on Friday night and the story, the saga of the last week of Jey Uso. Now, of course, we discussed all of this last week on Notsam Wrestling, and I felt like I was kind of doing a service. I didn't want to see Jey Uso lose the Intercontinental Championship. I don't think most of you wanted to see Jey Uso lose the Intercontinental Championship, but there was just something in me that saw what was going on with the bloodline. What I usually do is I say, what decision would make for, as far as I know, based on what I see on TV, the best story for all involved? Because you know I'm a story guy. And the best thing that I could think of was, in the short term, having some sadness, having that Intercontinental Championship taken off Jey Uso. But in the big picture, start a whole new wave with Bron Breakker and give Jey Uso all the reason that he needs to be back with the bloodline, which is really what most of us desperately want to see. At least that's what it sounded like in Brooklyn, New York. So we go back to SmackDown last week, which we talked about here on Notsam Wrestling. Jey Uso tells Solo Sikoa that the next time he sees him, it's going to be different. Well, it was Solo Sikoa that was in charge of the next time that Jey and Solo saw each other, and it was Solo that made sure that things were different. We build Monday Night Raw all the way up to the Intercontinental Championship rematch, less than a month after Jey Uso had won that title from Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker is now back to try to reclaim the Intercontinental Championship, and we're building, and we have the match. And the match is ongoing when all of a sudden there's this commotion. And Jey Uso is looking out into the crowd, and here comes Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu on one side of the arena. And Solo Sikoa is showing off the new Yeet shirt that he was able to just buy from, presumably, the merchandise stand. And he shows Jey Uso that he has 2 tickets. One's for him and one's for Jacob. And when Solo shows off his 2 tickets, he gives us meme potential for probably the next 2 years. Solo showing off his tickets I was chuckling about it all week, seeing what all you guys photoshopped into his hand, whether it was the new Dragon Ball Z game, whether it was whatever, just making that face, which, by the way, we're going to get into Solo Sikoa's performance, because his performance on Monday Night Raw related to his performance on SmackDown, which is something that we've been talking about here that I feel like many have not been agreeing with me on, but are being forced to come to the conclusion that, once again, I might have been right and they might have been wrong. But regardless, Jey avoids Solo and Jacob. What are you doing here? We're here to help. We're here to help. That's all. We're here to help. Bron Breakker knocks Jey Uso to the outside of the ring. He goes to the other side of the arena. He thinks there's a fan patting him on the chest saying, go get him, Jey, go get him, Jey. And he turns around and he realizes it's the infamous Tonga Loa. And he pushes him away. And Solo Sikoa comes over the guardrail. He says, what are you doing? And we get this great moment, right? Which we'll talk about in a minute because it doesn't necessarily relate to this story. But we get this great moment where as Solo is explaining to Jey, I'm just trying to help you win, dog. I'm just trying to help you win, fam. Let's all eat. Bron Breakker is running from the other side of the ring. And right there on the outside, Jey sees it coming. He moves, and Solo Sikoa gets hit with a super spear. Jacob Fatu is still in the front row, and he is infuriated. Because in case you didn't know this about Jacob Fatu, he loves you, Solo. He acknowledges you. And Jacob Fatu has had enough. And he jumps over the rail, and we see this stare down. And for just this brief moment, we take a look at the future of WWE, and we'll talk about that momentarily because Jey is there to break the whole thing up, get the match back on track. Now, eventually, Jey is able to avoid Bron Breakker's spear. The Tongans get up on the apron. The referee gets distracted by the Tongans. While the referee's back is turned, Jey Uso runs up for a super spear of his own to take out Bron Breakker. And what happens? He gets caught by Jacob Fatu, who Samoan drops him on the table, and that does just enough damage for Bron Breakker to get Jey Uso back into the ring, spear him, and beat Jey Uso 1, 2, 3. Bron Breakker, once again, your Intercontinental Champion, and a great point noted by Wade Barrett and by Joe Tess and by anybody that was really watching was that Bron Breakker didn't care. Bron Breakker was not bothered by the way that he won that title. Bron Breakker cementing himself as, I don't care. And you could tell how much people loved Jey Uso because there are people that really want to cheer Bron Breakker. Whenever Bron Breakker asks if he's got any dogs out here in Philadelphia, people start barking. And part of that is because for some reason as human beings, we love mimicking other species. There's something inherent in human DNA that we love barking like a dog. It just makes us feel strong. But it's also because we do love Bron Breakker. To a lot of extent, Bron Breakker is the best of us. He's the best example of what a human being is capable of. Let's be 100% honest about that. So whatever, Bron Breakker. But I bring that all up to say, once he was paired with Jey Uso, the dogs weren't barking. People love Jey Uso too much. Jey Uso goes out on his back. And it's all because of the Bloodline's interference. The Bloodline takes the Intercontinental title away from Jey Uso and puts it in the hands of Bron Breakker. Now we get to SmackDown. And the Motor City Machine Guns win the number one contendership, which we'll get into. The Bloodline comes out, and the Bloodline is ready for their match right now. Solo Sikoa says he's ready for the match right now. And this is where Solo really starts performing. He's reacting to the crowd who are telling him that they don't want to hear from him. In Brooklyn, they did not want to hear from Solo Sikoa. And Solo Sikoa let them know that he was not really interested in what their positioning on him was. And as Chris Sabin is making his case to the Bloodline, let me introduce you to us. Let me introduce ourselves. We're the Motor City Machine Guns. He starts mimicking Chris Sabin's voice. Now, all you have to do is go back to Solo Sikoa, even at the beginning of this year, pre-WrestleMania 40 Solo Sikoa. And you can go back even further. Go back to the Solo Sikoa that was the enforcer. Go back to the Solo Sikoa that was the character that Roman said was going to be the next tribal chief. Go back to Solo Sikoa when he was more like Jacob Fatu. And notice the incredible difference in the portrayal of a character that we are now seeing from Solo Sikoa. Not only is Solo not terrible, Solo is masterful at creating this. He took the coolest faction that he was one of the coolest parts of and turned it in to a real, legitimate, I'm going to boo you heel faction that is now prime for a storyline where the original bloodline is able to come back and be the biggest baby faces in the company. And that doesn't work unless you have a bloodline that people really want to boo for them to oppose. And that's what Solo was able to create, even though right before WrestleMania, he was kind of the man. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's doing. And I think sometimes people get confused between good booing and you're not good at this booing. It's a very, very different thing. So the Motor City Machine Guns end up getting the match. And we'll get into the Motor City Machine Guns in a few minutes. Because all of these stories interweave with each other. Of course, the Bloodline comes out. Of course, the Bloodline is at ringside. Not only is it the Tongans in the ring defending the SmackDown Tag Team Championship against the Motor City Machine Guns, but Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa are right there. Well, a hooded figure jumps out of the crowd and starts taking out first Jacob Fatu, then Solo Sikoa. He unmasks Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso is there to defend the Bloodline. Now, of course, one man is not enough to stop both Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. So the numbers play a part. They end up getting the best of Jimmy Uso. And because these are all outside parties, the referee is still just trying to keep this tag match going in the ring and goes, if you guys want to kick each other's asses outside the ring, go right ahead. Because just as the Bloodline thinks they have everything in hand, boom, boom, Roman Reigns, the OTC, comes out to join the melee with full music and everything. And Brooklyn goes absolutely crazy for him. So Roman Reigns comes out to help Jimmy Uso. And what we end up is Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso isolating Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, allowing the ringside area to simply be 2-on-2. We're back to fair. Tongans, Motor City Machine Guns. But then the referee takes a bump. And while the referee is down, the Tongans decide to get steel chairs. And two Tongans with steel chairs, two Tongans alone, tough enough to beat. Tongans with steel chairs, you're not going to be able to do anything. That is when another hooded figure, but this time shrouded under a mask as well, jumps out of the crowd. Now, there is no confusing who this may be, because even though his face is totally covered, and even though his hoodie is zipped all the way up, everybody in that building is chanting, yeet, 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 because we're all hoping. We're all thinking, what could be more perfect than this being Jey Uso, this being the Jey Uso moment? He beats down the Tongans. He takes the steel chairs away from him. And when it's time, after a spear, unzips his hoodie, peels off the mask, and it is exactly who we all thought it was. Jey Uso gets a massive ovation in the ring, sets up the Motor City Machine Guns for a title win, and Jey Uso stands there as telegraphed as it was, executed absolutely perfectly, giving fans exactly what they wanted out of this moment. Motor City Machine Guns celebrate with the championships. They exit. The Bloodline exits. As Jey Uso standing there, he sees that now Jimmy Uso is walking back up the aisle towards the ring. Jimmy Uso approaches. They're looking at each other. There's a lot of confused emotion here between these two brothers. Jey has that twitch, that angry twitch, where it's like, all I want to do is be cool, and you guys will never let me be cool. And Jey has that intense look on his face. And when they are in the ring together, they both know there's nothing to do but hug it out like two brothers and two Usos always should. The Usos, for the first time since, what was it, SummerSlam of last year? I think the Uso breakup, that would have been SummerSlam of last year, August of 2023. The Usos stand together once again. And Roman Reigns is all the way down at the end of the aisle by the entranceway, looking back with a lot on his mind. He's not smiling, but he's not necessarily angry. He's pensive. He's dealing with the reality of what's in front of him. He doesn't know if he likes what he saw. Jace wanted nothing to do with Roman Reigns last week. Roman doesn't take kindly to that, historically speaking. There's a lot of play calling going on right now. Jimmy and Jay are calling their own plays. Roman historically has not liked that, but that was the Roman of the past. Roman has acknowledged, for lack of a better term, that Jimmy calling plays has been helpful to the mission at hand. And the fact is that Roman doesn't have the wise man right now. It wasn't always Roman calling the play. It was the wise man setting up the play and Roman giving the approval for it. Without the wise man, maybe Roman does need to listen more to the people around him. But as we leave SmackDown, we are not 100% sure whether Roman is okay with this Uso reunion or not. Now, obviously I predicted last week that Roman Reigns has got to be okay with it. Surely, there's no other direction we could possibly be going in. However, it is an excellent cliffhanger for an episode of SmackDown. And it's got to have you eager to tune in next week, even if you think you know what's going to happen, just to see what will no doubt be this masterful moment. Jay is returning to the bloodline now and returning to the Usos, a different man. There are people, and I saw it because I was posting clips from last week's show, and there are people in the comments going, Jay has done so much. He can't just be doing all this to go back to being a tag team wrestler, could he? Being in the Usos is not just being a tag team wrestler. First of all, I don't think that Jay Uso going back and joining this team is, number one, necessarily permanent. I don't know how permanent this version of the bloodline is. And number two, it's not the same Jay Uso. Jay Uso has proven that he can do it on his own. That insecurity that existed, the whole Jay Uso character, the reason he was stuck in the position that he was stuck in with the bloodline was that there was an inherent insecurity that Jay Uso had as to whether or not he actually could do this on his own. That is no longer a question. He did what he needed to do. He won the Intercontinental Championship. And when the bloodline asked him to come back, he didn't go back because he's not this guy that's just going to be at his family's beck and call. He's not this guy that's just going to forget about the past. But the bloodline decided to take away from him the thing that defined his success as his own man. So now he's got just as much reason individually as an individual man to go after this new bloodline as everybody else in that group does. This new bloodline is not just dealing with a group of opponents that are following the orders of one man that was wrong. This new bloodline has wronged individually everybody coming after them. Roman was obviously the first one that was wronged when Solo took the tribal chief spot from him and insulted him on television. Jimmy was wronged by being taken out by this bloodline on the SmackDown after WrestleMania. Jay was wronged by having the Intercontinental Championship taken away from him. Eventually, the wise man will be back, hopefully, fingers crossed. He has been wronged individually by this group who powerbombed him through a table. All of this makes up a very different dynamic. Because now, even if Roman Reigns tells Jey Uso, hey, do this because I said so, Jey Uso goes, no, I'm going to do this because I have my own reasons for doing it. And that's what separates it. Do I think Jey Uso is done with his singles career? No. WWE is not going to ignore the fact that they go to a building and it's full of Yeet t-shirts, whether he's wrestling or not. Do I think that this is going to make everybody bigger? Yeah. Do I think this is what everybody wants and needs to see? Yeah. Yeah. Losing the title is the motivation that Jay needed to come back, because it's that motivation that differentiates this Jey Uso from any other Jey Uso that we've seen before. We had another confrontation that, again, this is another one that I was talking about last week, that I was saying that I'm hoping that we're seeing it based on what was telegraphed last week on SmackDown. I said this can only mean one thing. When Randy Orton went in to talk to Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis said, I couldn't make the Kevin Owens match if I wanted to. You don't understand. It's coming from above. It's out of my hands. And Randy Orton said, then I know who to talk to. And instantly, here on the show, we started talking about this amazing potential of a Randy Orton Triple H confrontation. Not that it was ever going to get physical, not that it was ever going to result in a match, but just with the history of these two on conflicting sides of an issue is going to make for amazing television. And it did. SmackDown begins with Randy Orton coming in, saying something to Triple H, who's sitting in gorilla position running the show, and going out to the ring and calling out Triple H. And while, yes, they played his music and gave him everything, the fact that Triple H is sitting at the booth, he's in gorilla position, clearly not, it's not like he just appears. It's not like he's ready to come out. It's not like he's a performer. The camera, there's not even a camera in there. They're using the desk camera that's got him and like Ed Koskey sitting next to each other, just trying to do their jobs. And Randy Orton is now calling out Triple H on television, and Triple H has no choice but to go out. It adds a level of authenticity to it, and it adds a level of, this is not Triple H becoming an on-screen authority figure character. This is Triple H as the guy that we know is running the creative of the show, getting called out by a superstar and having to get up out of his position, which we've all been watching wrestling long enough, and we're all smart enough fans to know that that is Triple H's position in Gorilla. So Triple H comes out, and Randy Orton has started by saying, clearly what you are doing is you are protecting Kevin Owens. I understand. You don't want me to have the match with Kevin Owens because you love Kevin. For whatever reason, that's your guy, and you want to protect him. All you have to do is say that, and then I can go do what I'm going to do. Triple H says, I'm not protecting Kevin Owens. Randy says, you're protecting Kevin Owens. Triple H says, I'm not protecting Kevin Owens. Randy says, you're protecting Kevin Owens. Just say you're protecting Kevin Owens, and I can move on. And Triple H says, I'm not protecting Kevin Owens. You want to know who I'm protecting? I'm protecting you. And everybody goes, ooh. And Triple H tells this great story. He says he's known Randy Orton since Randy first got to WWE. He's also known Kevin Owens since Kevin Owens first got to WWE. And that is an interesting dynamic with Triple H, in the sense that from the time Randy Orton was a young man in the WWE, Triple H saw him, Triple H scouted him out, Triple H put him in Evolution, Triple H put him on the map and brought him to the next level, brought him to the position where he could at that time become the youngest world heavyweight champion WWE had ever had. He's also known Kevin Owens from the beginning. Kevin Owens was one of the very early noteworthy NXT signings. Kevin Owens was one of the very early NXT signings where they said, what if we got somebody from outside the WWE that's making noise and just allowed them to do their thing? The difference between Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen was about a name. That's it. Same thing. It was Kevin Owens and Finn Balor coming into the WWE that really changed what the model of NXT was all about. And that's when Triple H had his hands all over it. So Triple H has a deep history with both of these superstars. Triple H sets up this story for Kevin, which is basically from the time Kevin Owens got to WWE, he wanted to be known as a prize fighter. That this was all business to him. And he could have friends, but the minute those friends got in the way of his business, he was going to take them out. And he didn't feel one way or the other about that. He wasn't taking people out for no reason ever. But if people that he got along with got in the way of his business, they were going to get taken out too. And that was Kevin Owens' MO. He said that after all these years, and he doesn't know what it is, maybe Randy Orton represents everything that Kevin Owens doesn't want to be or reminds it. He doesn't know. But he said after all these years, Cody and Randy Orton are the two people that Kevin Owens has ever actually considered friends. Those are the two people that Kevin Owens actually liked, that he would put in front of his business. And Triple H said he feels that you two stabbed him in the back. That when Randy and Cody Rhodes turned on Kevin Owens, Triple H said that Kevin Owens became disconnected. He said he's looked in Kevin Owens' eyes, and Kevin Owens is a different human being. And Randy's demanding the match. Triple H says, fine. You want it? Fine. You got it. Crown jewel, Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. But he said, Randy, from this point forward, I would make sure to protect yourself at all times. And who knows what we're going to see. You know, Kevin Owens has been taking to social media through this. Kevin Owens has been a part of parking lot brawls throughout all this. So maybe this means in a world where everything counts, we're going to get some stuff that's not necessarily on Raw, that's not necessarily on SmackDown, something that's going to break midweek. Randy Orton, in convincing Triple H to make this match, said he doesn't want the Triple H he sees in front of him. He doesn't want to talk to this Triple H in the suit that's trying to make sure everybody's happy and doing the show. He wants the Triple H he went to war with. He wants the Triple H that showed up at his house. He wants that Triple H to be the one making these decisions. And maybe Kevin Owens is listening to that. I mean, I think that we've never gotten a Kevin Owens on the main roster who was quite as brutal as the one from NXT. Kevin Owens in NXT was as close as WWE has ever gotten to the true heartless bastard that the Kevin Steen character was in Ring of Honor and everywhere else before he got to WWE. So I think that we're going all the way back there. That this is the Kevin Owens that we're getting. And we started to see that a little bit. Remember, he started wearing some red in his shirts that he wasn't wearing before and all this stuff. I wonder what the presentation, because I would guess that we won't get Kevin Owens in the flesh. And we might see video, we might see statements. I don't think we'll see Kevin Owens booked in an arena until Crown Jewel. Could be wrong, but that's where I kind of see it going. I wonder what the presentation will look like. I wonder how he'll represent that idea that Triple H said, that he looked into his eyes and saw a completely different person. And I wonder what his wrestling style is going to look like. You know, it's going to get very, very interesting. And I love that this turn is happening. I love that we're seeing this new Kevin Owens. I think that what we see from Cody, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens basically for the next 6 months is going to fuel us in a big way. Because there were a lot of people that were critical of SmackDown coming off of WrestleMania for the last couple months. And what we've got now on SmackDown is two of the most substantial stories that the industry has right now, which is the rebuilding of the original bloodline to combat this new bloodline and this ongoing drama between Cody, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens, which is, boy, is it compelling. Hey guys, forgive the interruption, but I want to recommend that you level up your game with Turtle Beach headsets, the #1 brand in gaming headsets and accessories. Their new Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset picks up so much crystal clear sound, it's basically cheating. You'll hear every footstep, every reload, and every enemy who's trying to sneak up on you. They're so comfy, you'll play for hours without one of those headset headaches. This is how I survive in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Every single time, whenever I need to take some steam off, I play my Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I need to hear where Leatherface is. I need to hear where everyone is, Grandpa, everyone. I put the headset on, it's perfect. With their cross-play dual wireless transmitter system, you can seamlessly switch between your consoles and your PC with just the click of a button. You can even connect to your phone while you game, so you can take calls while you save the princess or whoever it is that you need to save. For me, I'm just trying not to get chainsawed. Anyway, whether you're a casual gamer or you haven't touched grass in weeks, Turtle Beach has the perfect headset for you. And for a limited time only, Notsam Wrestling listeners get 10% off your entire order when you use code NOTSAM at turtlebeach.com. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with promo code NOTSAM. But also, Cody Rhodes promo with Gunther was incredibly compelling. I love when we get to see a Cody Rhodes with Edge. I love when we get to see a Cody Rhodes who is fed up. And that's what we got on SmackDown when he was face-to-face with Gunther. Of course, Cody Rhodes had invited Gunther to SmackDown. And Cody Rhodes made his way out, and he got himself perched up onto that top rope, ready for the second woe. And he puts his hands up, and Gunther's music starts playing. The ultimate villainous move as Gunther now approaches a ring that is surrounded by suited security that also act as escorts for that humongous 50-carat crown jewel championship title that we see. And when those superstars get close to it, you really understand that it's about as big a belt as anybody has ever seen. It's enormous. Gunther gets in the ring and he gets himself a microphone. Cody compliments his double-breasted suit, which did look great, by the way. And Gunther says, first of all, this has nothing to do with your daughter. This has nothing to do with any of that. I think you were just being dramatic. He says he's doing this for himself because he's the best and he wants to prove that he's the best. Well, Cody Rhodes responds. He goes, first of all, this always has everything to do with the fans. And second of all, dramatic. You think I'm dramatic? Look at who my family is. Look at who my brother is. Yeah, we're dramatic, but we embrace that. Look at the Cody crybabies. The Cody crybabies may get emotional, but they'll drop you on the street if they have to. We're dramatic. Cody Rhodes says that he feels good about it. He embraces being dramatic. He's proud to be dramatic. And as a matter of fact, he's proud to be a bit of a messy king. And I love that Cody is a bit of a messy king. I like when Cody becomes that messy king. I don't need Cody all buttoned up all the time. When he lets that dramatic side of him come out a little bit, I like it a lot. Cody talks about, where have you been? You know, we're both world champions. I've been doing every media appearance. I've been doing podcasts. I was in Las Vegas to promote WrestleMania 41 being on sale. I was here. I was there. Gunther says, the difference between you and me is I get all those same requests that you do, obviously, but I say no. Whether it's for these fans, whether it's for media, whether it's for charity, which is mean. He goes, I say no. The reason you say yes to all of it is because you're gutless. You are gutless. And Cody, I really enjoy when Cody reminds people where he's come from. Because you can try to paint Cody as this corporate champion. You can try to paint Cody as this yes man. But all he has to do is remind you, whoa. I'm not a creation of the machine. I am the machine. I'm Bert Kreischer. I'm the one who paved the road that I'm on. I'm not supposed to be here. I left. I built something else. I came back. I became undeniable. It's the only reason that I'm here. And he goes gutless. And so I love when he brings that up. And he goes, there's nothing gutless about taking the first shot, and instantly starts hitting Gunther. All the manners are out the window. Gunther has pushed it too far, and he starts beating up Gunther, but here comes Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser is able to get involved, and they start beating down Cody. Randy Orton comes out, even the odds. Gunther and Ludwig retreat. So the question is, where are we going with this crown jewel match? Now, I believe I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of the show, where when I'm trying to figure out what's happening in a match like this, I go, to me, what makes the most compelling stories and where I want to be coming off of this match is I want to be deeper into the Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton saga. And I want Gunther to continue to be elevated. The idea is that Gunther's next opponent, who might it be? CM Punk possibly, could be Drew McIntyre, could be Damian Priest. But I guess they've been teasing Damian Priest, right? Maybe it'll be Damian Priest. But you want Gunther to come out of that with whoever of those names I just listed as his opponent, whoever it is, you want to be looking at him going, well, if these last guys didn't beat Gunther, I don't see how this guy's going to beat Gunther. And with Cody Rhodes, you want to go like, okay, they've pushed, because Cody hasn't mentioned Kevin Owens at all. You want to get to that point where Cody has to mention Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens is making his life a living hell, is taking away these things. Cody Rhodes doesn't lose often. Cody Rhodes has lost a handful of times since returning to the WWE at all. Roman, Roman beat him at 39. Brock beat him once. Other than that, Cody doesn't lose too often. Rock pinned him at WrestleMania 40, night 1. But night 2, he won the title. And that was a tag match. So a loss to Cody is a big deal. And if Kevin Owens causes it, we've really got something going on. So I have Gunther winning that champion versus champion match and using that as a pedestal, right? Maybe way down the road we get to another Cody Gunther match. Maybe we don't. But Gunther now describes himself as the primary champion. And if one person out of the two champions is going to describe themselves as being the top champion better than the other champion, it better be the bad guy, because that's a villainous thing to do. It's not a respectful thing to do. The question is, though, like, as I'm watching Randy in there with Cody, Randy helping Cody, there's this big part of me that goes, I don't trust Randy Orton. Are we going to do Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes next? Or are we going straight to Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes? What if Randy's the one that stops Cody from winning that match? What if Randy says, well, I've only been doing this because I'm here to get a title shot. You've been offering title shots to everybody, never me. And now I see that Kevin Owens is getting under your skin enough that he might get a shot at that championship again before I do? No way. I'm taking mine now. What if we get a Randy Orton Cody Rhodes match at Survivor Series? It's possible. It's also, look, this is what's becoming so compelling about all of this. There are many things that could happen. We could go straight to Randy Orton from here and have Kevin Owens be even more disturbed by it. And then after that, go into a heel Randy Orton, Kevin Owens thing. There's a million things you could do. There is also a world, right? I think a lot of people have this belief that Randy Orton could beat Cody Rhodes for the title. That would be a good person. If anyone's going to beat Cody, Randy would be the guy. But if you are really rebuilding Kevin Owens, there is this version of all of this where Kevin Owens wins the championship from Cody Rhodes. And we are here right now, right? We are April, May, June, July, August, September, October. We're 6 months removed from WrestleMania. I'm going to do some quick math and figure out that means we're 6 months until the next WrestleMania. If you act in a timely fashion, you can get the title off of Cody Rhodes now and have it back on him by WrestleMania. Because I do think, look, here's the thing. I think Cody Rhodes should be WWE champion by the time we get to WrestleMania 41. I think the main event of WrestleMania 41 should be Roman Rock Cody. That's what I think the match should be. But there's a million ways we could go with this, okay? What if Kevin Owens beats Cody Rhodes at some point? What if Kevin Owens is the WWE champion? What if Cody then goes into a program with Randy Orton? What if Kevin Owens also beats Randy Orton and is still the champion? What if Cody still does his thing with Rock and Roman Reigns, but they make it more about the People's Championship? And what if Kevin Owens holds the WWE Championship all the way to WrestleMania? And then at WrestleMania, the WWE Championship match is Kevin Owens seeking vengeance on the person he thought was his best friend, who even after Kevin Owens voiced his displeasure, still decided to team with Roman Reigns one more time. What if Sami Zayn rejoins the Bloodline at Survivor Series for that War Games match that we may or may not get? And what if that leads to a WWE Championship match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania? Is that my prediction? No. Could it happen? Yes. Should I have said it out loud because now there are going to be people that really, really want it and we're probably not going to get it? I don't know. That's for you to decide. But the fact that that is a possibility based on where all the pieces on the board are right now is amazing. So much fun and makes perfect sense when you break it down properly. Now, I do think that the wording Triple H chose was important. Triple H said that Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton were the only people that Kevin Owens has ever known in the WWE who he would put them before business. Meaning he doesn't have that connection with Sami Zayn because he didn't mention Sami Zayn. Now, that doesn't mean it's totally off the table. That could just be something Triple H was saying to direct our attention in this direction of where the story is going right now. They could come back and say, well, actually, there was one more person. They could come back and say, well, this actually goes deeper than WWE. This is from way before WWE. There's a lot of, there are, with that wording, you can get away from Kevin Owens being mad at Sami Zayn should Sami Zayn go back to join the Bloodline, or you can go towards Kevin Owens being mad at Sami Zayn for joining the Bloodline. Both work in this scenario. If I'm putting money on something, what do I think the match should be? What's my pick? Rock, Roman, Cody. What's my dark horse? What's another story to tell to get to a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania? Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens defending the title against Sami. It's a fun thing to think about. They're all fun things to think about. I mean, it was super fun to watch Monday Night Raw, and like we were talking about earlier, see Braun hit that accidental super spear on Solo Sikoa and see Jacob Fatu get furious because Jacob Fatu loves you, Solo. He acknowledges you. When Jacob Fatu and Bron Breakker stared at each other face to face, I mean, it was like we were finally getting this thing that we've wanted for months and had no idea we wanted it. I know, I'm sure it's come up here and there, but I don't remember a ton of people going, you know what we should get? Bron Breakker versus Jacob Fatu. And even if you did say it, it'd be like, I just picked the two strongest guys. When you saw those two looking at each other, that's when you realize the depth of the WWE roster. That's when you realize, oh, we can have fun picking WrestleMania matches that might happen in 6 months. We can also have fun picking WrestleMania matches that might happen in a year or 2 years or 5 years. And realize that, like, oh, I'm on board for the development of all these superstars. That you see that stare down and you don't go, pull the trigger right now. This needs to happen right now. For a split second, before Jey Uso came and laid them both out, You saw those two staring at each other. And for a split second, you know what you saw? The next era. At least that's what I saw. When Jacob and Bron Breakker are staring at each other, I couldn't help but think to myself, oh, I've been so busy enjoying this era. I can't believe buried within it, I got a little taste of what the next era is going to look like. And boy, does the next era look interesting. You know, I mean, as big as Jacob Fatu is right now, the idea of the long play for him is so compelling. And the idea that, like, you've got all this in front of Bron Breakker, but we're in a slow cooker right now. We're in the big green egg. And that is the raw meat that just got put on it. We're going to go back a day, 2 days, 3 days from now. It's just going to be smoking in the back. But eventually, it's going to be done. And boy, is it going to be tasty when it is. It was so cool. A taste of the next era buried within this era. We'll get back at it momentarily, but man, this is for you. When we leave the house, what is it always? You get the keys, the phone, the wallet, and for me, it used to be checking the hair. If you're dealing with hair loss now, you might not be so confident when you step outside your door. I was there. Hims can help. They didn't tell me until just now. Hims gives you convenient and quality access to a range of hair loss treatments that really work with clinically proven ingredients that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. You can choose between chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatments to find out what works best for you. Information I could have used yesterday. You don't even need insurance, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. You start your free online visit today at hims.com/notsam. That's HIMS.com/notsam for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/notsam. Of course, results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. It doesn't get any better than that. And what I didn't think for this era, though, is that we would see the Motor City Machine Guns win the tag team championship, especially 2 weeks into their run, 3 matches in, the Motor City Machine Guns are the tag team champions on SmackDown. Now, last week, we saw the Motor City Machine Guns win the triple threat match. This week, they come out, they have their match with DIY. First of all, they had the sick-ass pyro on their entrance. They have those entrance beats that allow you to kind of clap along with them as the pyro goes off. Boom, 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 boom. And even in the entrance, I went, okay, they're building the machine around these guys. I didn't realize how much they were building the machine around these guys. That not only would they get the pyro and the entrance and the mic time and all this stuff, but they were going to get the tag team championship immediately. And it was really cool. Really cool. First of all, so they beat DIY. And then you tease this tension between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. And I feel like that's something they're doing with a lot of teams right now. And there was a trope in WWE that whenever you saw this tension teased, it clearly meant that this team is breaking up. I don't think that that's necessarily true anymore. I don't think the New Day is going to break up. I'm not sure. I'm sure eventually Grayson Waller and Austin Theory will break up, but I'm not sure if we're on the precipice of that as we were not that long ago. Will DIY break up? I think it's entirely possible. I think if anybody sees the value in Johnny Gargano as an underdog babyface and Tommaso Ciampa as an absolutely dastardly, will do nothing good for anyone, no redeeming qualities heel, it's Triple H. Those are the characters that they owned, and owned better than most when Triple H was in charge of NXT. Triple H is the one that orchestrated the epic year-long rivalry, pre-Bloodline, by the way, that existed between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Would it shock me If that repeated on the main roster at some point, it wouldn't shock me one bit. Not at all. As compelling as it was in NXT, I would not be surprised at all if they ran that back. This was Triple H's baby. And maybe he thinks that, they're ready for a second one. If that makes sense. Now, as much as DIY is Triple H's baby, I love the positioning, right? Because after DIY goes out and the Motor City Machine Guns are there, the Bloodline comes out. And the Bloodline says they want a match with the Motor City. They want the Tag Team Championship match to happen right now, which is clearly not the best news for the Motor City Machine Guns. And who comes out to help them but Nick Aldis? Nick Aldis has the Motor City Machine Guns back. And they're really playing up on the TNA connection. Like I said last week, one of the interesting things about this TNA partnership is not just that we're seeing current TNA active roster members on the WWE programming, but the fact that with the Motor City Machine Guns coming in, it's really the first time that emphasis has been put on Nick Aldis's history in TNA and the connection that they have. And that was doubled down upon on SmackDown this week. Solo even made that reference, trying to make an impact, and everybody got it. And Nick Aldis got it. I love that interplay and love seeing where that's going. And I think that's, again, something that's been on Triple H's mind quite a bit because Triple H brought in a ton of TNA talent to work in NXT. Clearly, he sees a value in what historically that group has been doing. I say the Machine is behind the Motor City Machine Guns, but I think that one of the reasons is not just because they think this is a cool act that people will enjoy and that will get over. I also think they're looking at the Motor City Machine Guns as this fresh, still innovative team that can really add some oomph into the tag team division. I think that that's really what they're trying to do with this move. It feels like they want to build I don't foresee the Tongans coming back for a return match and winning the titles right back. I don't foresee the Usos, getting the titles right away. I foresee the championship going back into the general population and just having great tag matches. The same way they've really, I feel like, amped up the women's tag team match or in the women's tag team division. The fact that they got a fatal 4-way women's tag match at Crown Jewel and all the teams have been part of this interplay leading up to it shows you that they've added depth to the women's tag team division. I think they're trying to do the same thing with the men's, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where this goes on Monday Night Raw with the Judgment Day's tag team championship as well. Remains to be seen, but I think with the War Raiders back, with the Final Testament, which we'll talk about in a minute, with the Alpha Academy, with American Made and the Creeds and all this stuff, I think on both shows, they're looking to really amp up the tag team division. And I think that's a good thing. And I think the Motor City Machine Guns are a pretty good pick to really act as that booster shot on SmackDown for this division. A lot of fans, myself included, surprised, dismayed, when on Monday, Samantha Irvin, the beloved ring announcer, puts out this Instagram post announcing that she was leaving the WWE and just kind of thanking everybody in a 4-page notes post, kind of thanking everybody that helped her along the way. Of course, at first, everybody assumed she must be going to AEW. She's with Ricochet. She's going to go be their ring announcer. And across the board, from Ricochet to people in AEW to gossip mongers on the internet, everybody has said that that's probably not the plan, at least right now. Who knows what happens in the future? But apparently, Samantha was leaving to pursue passions that she has outside of professional wrestling, which I'll never hate on anybody for pursuing their passions. I think that's what everybody should be doing. That said, selfishly, from a fan perspective, in my opinion, Samantha Irvin, in only 3 years, has been put on the list, I want to say at number 2, behind Howard Finkel, for my favorite WWE. I mean, for my favorite ring announcers, but my list is clearly WWE skewed. But I have Howard Finkel as my number one. I don't think that'll ever be taken away. He does the intro on this podcast. He was the ring announcer of my entire childhood. And I just think that there's too much there. But to me, Samantha Irvin is number two, and I never thought that somebody at this phase of my life that I would see a ring announcer that way and put them right up there. But it was because she was able to do the job so well and do it in a way that only she could do it. You know, adding character to so many of these. Chelsea Green. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I barely have a voice as it is. But, you know, adding The Miz, Rudy, Kaiser, like, you know all of them. It's hard to imagine Samantha not being the one for some of those big bloodline moments, for example. And by the way, there's a ton of great talent. Like, Alicia Taylor's there. We'll talk about Lillian Garcia in a minute. Mike Rome is still, like, these ring announcers are great. It's just clearly Samantha Irvin was doing her own thing and was great at it. And not only was it the stank, we'll say, that she would put on the names of so many of these superstars, but it was the fact that even just as a ring announcer, she was able to completely translate her passion for professional wrestling and our passion for professional wrestling, that we as fans saw something in her that we see in ourselves, that we were able to live vicariously through her. When she's crying, making the WrestleMania winning announcement, when she's got all that emotion for those Sami Zayn matches, there's just so many of those moments where you can see that she feels every single thing that she's saying, and all she's doing is saying the winner's name. But she is living that moment the same way we are all living that moment. And that is a very rare quality, especially when it doesn't come across as somebody trying to make the moment about themselves. There are plenty of people who, in those moments, when the moment is not about them, they try to bring the attention back onto themselves. And that comes across as inauthentic, and that is not good television. Samantha isn't that. Samantha reflected those moments because she's a fan the same way that we're all fans. And maybe this is just wishful thinking, would love to think that at some point we'll see Samantha Irvin back in the WWE. It's just one of those things. Whether it was on her life bingo card or not, sometimes life puts you in the exact spot that you're supposed to be in. And it's up to her to answer that question. As fans, we can't answer that question for her. But as fans, I think most of us would like her in that spot. That said, we got another surprise on Monday Night Raw with the return of Lillian Garcia, who, as far as ring announcers in history, Lillian ranks very high up there as most beloved. She is the ring announcer for so many classic moments. The things that she did with WWE, even when she's not been with WWE, it's just, she's so known for all of it. And as soon as you hear her voice, you know exactly who's doing it. I was really happy, not only as a fan to hear her again, but also as a human being. You know, she's been on the show. We've done interviews with her before. Like, I'm very happy for Lillian to be back in that position. And if you've got to make a change, I love to see Lillian Garcia back doing the announcing on Monday Night Raw. And as I'm first watching, I'm wondering, is this going to be a short-term thing just for this week? And then she makes the announcement, she's back. So that is very exciting. And it is going to be nuts to be going through 2025 and have Lillian Garcia doing ring announcements for John Cena, theoretically The Rock, Cody Rhodes, like watching all of it. 2025 is going to be this amazing year of this new era having grown to such heights that now the stars of the past are equaling with it, and everything is merging together in this amazing historical moment that I think 2025 is going to be, and I'm glad Lillian Garcia is going to be there for it. Before we move on to emails, of course, the Wyatt 6 Final Testament story is already awesome. Now, I said weeks ago, I've been talking about this, that I've been loving the slow build of the Final Testament. I think that what's been happening with the Final Testament is exactly what Karrion Kross and that group is needed. I think that at first people weren't sure about the group. I think that at first people weren't sure where it was all going. But the fact that over months, they've slowly been doing all these things, and you've been seeing these payoffs slowly. The fact that they're completely removed from the New Day, yet somehow still attached at the kernel of all of this. They were removed from R-Truth and The Miz, yet it somehow were at the kernel of all of this. Now we have them in a match. The Wyatt Six make their appearance known. They come and attack the Final Testament. Scarlett has the most amazing facial expression as Nikki Cross jumps off the top rope on top of her. It was awesome. Karrion Kross is trying to keep his group in order. The Miz is in the ring. He's smiling because he thinks he's avoided all of it. He turns around, there's Uncle Howdy, but Paul Ellering pushes the Miz out of the way, and Paul Ellering eats that mandible claw. Now you got to wonder, Paul Ellering is clearly being written off TV, at least for the time being. Is this the last time we're going to see Paul Ellering? Will he be back soon? Will he not be back? Will he be back in months? Who knows? But everything counts. And it's all so important. Because during the third hour of Raw, which is on Peacock with myself and Megan Morant, we went backstage. And The Miz was in the locker room with the Final Testament. And he said, look, guys, I don't want anything to do with this. I appreciate everything. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not in the Final Testament. I got no beef with the Wyatt Six. I'm done. And Karrion Kross does that thing where he's smiling at first, then he turns into a maniac, then he starts smiling again, which I love. But he lets The Miz know, you can't walk away from this. This is like some prison gang stuff. This is like some mafia stuff. He goes, you can't walk away from this because one of my guys just took a bullet for you. And he said, so you got two choices. Either you leave here to avoid the Wyatt Six and you got a problem with us, or we can help you take care of the Wyatt Six and you can help us. And The Miz realizes a rock in a hard place is an understatement. He's got nowhere to go. And now he's stuck with the Final Testament. And what you've got is 4-on-4, potentially, if you want to mix it up with the mixed tag, 5-on-5. But you've now got AOP, Karrion Kross, and The Miz stuck there. And on the other side, Uncle Howdy, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, and Joe Gacy. It's perfect. It's perfect, and I want to see... I hope The Miz comes out of this stronger. I really do. Because I think there's a lot there with The Miz. I would love to see The Miz come out of this a monster. Not like a scary, I'm going to wear... Like, I don't want to see goth Miz. But I do want to see a much more brutal Miz, a Miz without a conscience. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see The Miz stripped of his conscience and get that killer instinct that he had when he was a younger man that led him to the championship. I want to see the morals stripped away from The Miz and see The Miz at his all-time badassedness. But we'll see how it all works out. With the Wyatt Six there, everything changes after the Wyatt Six. If you've got any predictions, email them in if you want to be a part of the show. Email notsamwrestling@gmail.com, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. By the way, we will have additional content this week, so make sure you're subscribed to the audio podcast feed, wherever you get Not Sam Wrestling, wherever you're listening right now. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can watch all these shows complete and in video format. Just go to youtube.com/NotSamWrestling, hit subscribe, comment, and like on all of the videos, and tell all your friends about it, because this is just about the best podcast going. And if you disagree with that, email in. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com is my email address. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com. We go to Arlie, who writes in, do you see a Seth heel turn coming? Between the edge he's shown in the Bronson, the shade thrown at CM Punk, and the subtle questioning of Cody Rhodes teaming with Roman, I feel like I've noticed a small shift in his energy ever since returning. Have you noticed anything? Great question. I absolutely have. And I feel like next week we'll probably do a full, yeah. Oh, will we not? Oh, we may not have time to do a full, no. Crown Jewels on Saturday, right? Well, we'll talk. I'm sure we'll do a Crown Jewel reaction show before next week's podcast. So maybe that's when we'll talk about all of this. But I don't know that I see a full Seth Rollins heel turn coming. A full heel turn. I have noticed stuff. He put his back to Jey Uso, did not dap him up whatsoever. He's been ultra aggressive with Bronson. Yeah, he's not a babyface, that's for sure. I think that the Seth Rollins CM Punk rivalry is coming. And I think that all parties involved are aware. CM Punk's not getting booed. Do I think it's going to go as far as it did with Drew McIntyre? No. I don't think they can redo that. I don't think Seth Rollins is going to be a full heel, because I think if Seth Rollins became a full heel, it would feel too much like the Drew McIntyre CM Punk rivalry. I think what you've got instead is Seth Rollins in an extremely bad mood and CM Punk in not such a bad mood. And you can choose to cheer Seth Rollins if you want or not. Seth doesn't care. Seth's going to keep his mind on business. And CM Punk is going to continue to be that sort of, CM Punkish babyface that we all know and love. But I think that's the vibe that I get with Seth Rollins. He's here for himself, but he's not a heel. And that after the CM Punk rivalry, he'll be able to be a babyface or whatever version of Seth Rollins he needs to be at that point. But I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's a heel turn. Micah writes in, thanks for the great weekly podcast and emergency reactions. One thing that stuck out to me was that Solo and the Bloodline didn't confront Motor City Machine Guns until about 16 minutes left in the show. Kind of amazes me how they pulled all that off in basically 15 minutes and it didn't feel like it was rushed. Triple H is cooking. That's a great point. That it was almost like 9:45 or whenever it was. And when the Bloodline comes out and goes, we want to do this now. And you're going, we haven't even seen Jay. We haven't seen anything. They're probably going to push this off to next week. I thought they were going to push it off to next week. And the fact that they were able to do everything, and in our mind's eye, it feels like that was a 30, 40-minute segment, right? That's a great point you made, Micah. Yeah, I feel like it was amazing. That was timed extraordinarily well. Because the Motor City Machine Guns also got a bunch of stuff in. Like, that's part of getting the Motor City Machine Guns over is you can't just do that segment and then have the Motor City Machine Guns do next to nothing because it's going to be all about the Bloodline. They're not getting over that way. So the Motor City Machine Guns were still able to do a bunch of stuff with Tama and Tonga. Yeah. Yeah. But still pulled it off in all like 16 minutes or whatever it was. That's awesome. Avik writes in, what's the haps from London? A lot of people wildly speculating that Cena and Orton will happen in Cena's farewell tour. To me, I never liked any of their matches. That's crazy. Apart from the TLC 2013 when the unified belts, which I thought was okay. Royal Rumble 2014 match was difficult to watch, and they did it shortly after on Raw. Question is, has there ever been a feud that other fans were really high on, but you thought was just meh at best? Not that I can think of. Maybe I'll think of something during the week and get back to you. Not that I can think of. I mean, I think to not do a Cena-Orton match during Cena's year return, yeah, would be silly not to do that. It'd be crazy not to do that, but who knows? James writes in, James O. Hey, Sam, not Sam. Paul Heyman calls me that. The one and only PTC. Acknowledge me. No question or anything, just a request. I, for one, would love to listen to a podcast of you, CVV, and LaGreca just talking wrestling. I posted the same thing on CVV's cast, but I don't know how to reach Dave other than calling in. Anyway, I hope the family's good as always. Love you. Love your stuff. Okay, so we've done a show together. SummerSlam in Detroit. The three of us, that was the live show. The first segment was Mojo, not Mojo. Oh, I'm blanking. That's really bad. But whatever. The second, Madcap Moss. I got there. Madcap Moss. The second segment was me, Van Vliet, and LaGreca just talking wrestling. It was super fun. I'm going to be doing Insight again, maybe this week. I do Bust It Open all the time. I'm sure it'll happen. We're all in the same networks, you know. Blake writes in, Dear Sam, my OPTC, I acknowledge thee. I appreciate that. In a world where everything counts, what did you think of the face-to-face we got between Bron Breakker and Jacob Fatu during the IC title match on Monday Night Raw? You know what I thought. I liked it a lot. These two men are no doubt the future main eventers and certainly know how to get the reaction from the crowd. I think it's fun to speculate about a feud between these two in the near future once current feuds and storylines are finished and we can come back to that first stare down. I don't even think we need the near future. I think it could be the distant future. Whatever. It's there. It's there, and we are cooking. Jeremy writes in. Wants to have my OG OPTC Triple OG. Chilling. Just started thinking about the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble and the amount of athletes that are on screen at this moment that could they set up for one of the best female Rumbles yet with the returns of Charlotte, Carmella, Alexa Bliss. Not to mention you throw in some NXT talent like Sol Ruka, JC, Fallon, and plus sprinkle in some TNA talent like Jordan Grace, Elegance by Ash. And you throw a few legends in like Trish, Tori, Michelle McCool-Taker. Or do you leave these off the list and focus more on talent that is currently working? Yeah, I think we're at the point where we don't need legends, or at least a ton, maybe one or two, just like you have with the men's. I think at this point, the Women's Royal Rumble should feel similar to the Men's Royal Rumble in the sense that you might have 2 or 3 at most legends return for that fun pop. I think you might have a couple of NXT people in it. And then, maybe one TNA person, because that's always fun. And then other than that, you've got a women's roster, and you can use them. Look at Lash Legend. Lash Legend should make a phenomenal appearance in the Rumble. But look at who you've got, right? You've got, if titles don't change, and they probably will, but you've got, Tiffany. You've got Naomi. You've got Rhea. You've got Lash Legend, as I said. You've got, Nikki Cross. You've got Ivy Nile. You've got Scarlett. You got, plus everybody that's not on screen. Who knows when Becky Lynch is coming back? Who knows when Asuka's coming back? Who knows when Charlotte's coming back? And who knows between now and January which other NXT talents will get called up? What if we had a Julia in the mix? What if we had a Stephanie Vaquer in the mix? And I think we will. I don't think you're bringing Julia all the way from Japan to not be in the Rumble and have a moment. I don't think you're bringing Stephanie Vaquer all the way from Mexico to not be in the Rumble and have a moment. What about Bianca Belair? What about Jade Cargill having another Rumble moment? Don't forget about that whole tag division. Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. I feel like, that Isla Dawn and Alba Fire have shot way up in terms of where they were at the beginning of the year. There's so many people. So many people. Charlotte is my pick to win the Women's Royal Rumble this year, right now. But who knows? Who knows if she'll leave me back? Nick writes in, hello, my PTC. A buddy of mine threw out an idea that they could have kept the IC belt on Jay. What if the OG Bloodline showed up to Raw to help the new Bloodline from interfering? They know the Bloodline playbook that could have pushed Jay to help them out to keep his IC title. Thoughts? It would have been a mess. Number one, Jay doesn't have that level of anger towards the new Bloodline because their plan didn't work. Number two, the Intercontinental Championship is now not on Raw, and it's getting mixed up in this SmackDown storyline. Number three, Jay kind of is his own man still, but because the IC title wasn't taken away from him, his thing that makes him his own person has now just been mixed in with the Bloodline stuff. It doesn't add anything. Him being the Intercontinental Champion is a hindrance to him rejoining the Bloodline. It doesn't help. Could it have possibly happened? Sure. But then you got nothing for Bron Breakker. Nothing's there for him. The new Bloodline looks like fools because their plan didn't work. And so we definitely don't believe they'll ever beat the old Bloodline. And the Intercontinental Championship just gets washed up in this story. So I don't support it at all. But when you say, could it have happened? Yeah, sure, it could. P writes in, hope all is well. I was wondering about the Crown Jewel Championship. When Gunther, he says Walter, but his name's Gunther, wins, I assume he will replace his normal championship with the new one or carry both. I don't think so. I think he should only carry the huge new Crown Jewel one. Now, in an imaginary world, let's say he comes back and loses to Priest. No, he's not going to carry around the Crown Jewel Championship. The Crown Jewel Championship is like the Andre statue. The Crown Jewel Championship doesn't get defended. The Crown Jewel Championship is a prize awarded every year, because Triple H said this would be happening annually, in a champion versus champion match. Damian Priest is not a champion. So he wouldn't get that title. I think that maybe the night after Crown Jewel, you'll see Gunther with that title. But Gunther's not going town to town with both titles, especially when they're not both being defended. And God forbid when Gunther loses the World Heavyweight Championship, the Crown Jewel title wouldn't be on the line. And he's not just going to walk around with a title that never gets defended, because it would completely take away his whole character is about honor and respect and doing things that way. The ring is sacred. So I don't see Gunther walking around with the Crown Jewel title. Abo writes in, hope you're good. I am good. I'm emailing from London. I love that we have people all over the world. It just tickles me to ask what the point of Roman and Cody versus Solo and Jacob at Bad Blood. I don't know. Maybe to get Kevin Owens pissed off at Cody Rhodes and have Jimmy Uso return to start their bloodline coming back and to get Roman Reigns back into the fold and to see if Roman and Cody could coexist on their path, which is clearly against each other. I don't know. As a vehicle for the story, I understand it brought Jimmy back and reminded us that the final boss is still watching. But in terms of the match itself, there were no consequences. It literally changed the entire landscape. But go on. No, what are you talking about? Roman and Cody won, but Roman is still no closer to being tribal chief. If Solo and Jacob had won, we'd still be in the exact same situation story-wise that we're in now. You didn't ask who should win. You said, what was the point of the match? And the reason Roman and Cody won is because if Jimmy Uso returns and Roman and Cody lose, then why would Roman go, hey, Jimmy Uso, I'm so glad you're back to help us not win. Thanks. I don't think he'd be that thrilled with it. Oh, cool. Remember he said, you made the play? You called the play? You called the play? Well, we lost. Way to call the play, idiot. That's what he would say. The only thing I can think of is the match was done so that KO has a legitimate reason to turn on Cody. Of course. What are you talking about? Everything in that match counted. Jimmy Uso coming back and helping Roman win completely changes the dynamic of Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns. Completely explains the dynamic of the new bloodline and allows this partnership to build between Jimmy and Roman Reigns that's not at all the same that it was before WrestleMania. It allows Kevin Owens to be furious at Cody Rhodes. It allows Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes to have an incredibly complex dynamic where they did help each other. But clearly Roman is there to get his title back, and Cody is in his way in life. All of it was the point. None of this is happening without that match. This is a crazy thing to write. Crazy. I appreciate that you wrote it, but it's nuts. Hard Pass writes in, I'm a Notsam Wrestling completist. I've probably always known this, but in episode 522 last week, you put a really fine point on it. When you were discussing Jay and losing the IC title, like always, you focused on storylines and logic. Other podcasts try to break behind-the-scenes news or spoilers. Some review matches and grade them, but you talk about it from an on-screen perspective. You have reaction and emergency pods, but on a weekly podcast, it's a discussion of storyline. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Hard Pass. I appreciate you acknowledging that, because that is, to me, the most honest perspective that I can have, and the perspective that we can relate on. My purpose of this podcast is to give you my thoughts from a true perspective. And you can't give thought. The minute I hear somebody saying, well, it's because they never want to put this guy over. If I ask you, how do you know that? And you can't tell me how you know that, or the answer is, well, I read it on the internet, we're done with that conversation. You are not coming to me from a truthful place. You're coming to me with assumed knowledge. We're making things up. All we know, for the most part, is what's going on screen. And I feel like that's the most truthful place. And that's also how we can have a conversation. Because that's what I would like, even though, I'm the only one talking, you're emailing in or whatever. But ultimately, it's like, I want to hit you from a perspective that is the truest place. And I want to be able to not only have this conversation with you, but if there's anything that I can put back into this world of wrestling fandom, it's to get to a place where we can all talk about wrestling as the art form that we should be talking about it in, that we can take the on-screen product seriously enough, that we can have these real conversations about these stories that are playing out in front of us. Hard Pass, great email to leave the show on. Appreciate you guys. I think we may have, if we do a Crown Jewel show, we'll probably have at least 2 more podcasts this week before we hit you with 524. Can't wait to be there for it. This is the funnest thing ever. Hope you all are having a good time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave reviews and ratings on audio platforms. And we'll see you soon.